Kia ora koutou, welcome to Point of View. My name's Tom Augustine. Thank you so much for being with me today. This is your monthly podcast where we talk about what's coming up in cinemas, on streaming, and also get a whole bunch of really great New Zealand craftspeople in to talk about the state of the industry. This is our final episode of the year. It's kind of crazy. It's been a massive year. We've had some really wonderful people coming in to talk to me. I thought I'd start this episode by talking about a few of my favourites, some of the people who I've really enjoyed talking to. And I also think this is one of the better years for New Zealand film in general for a long time. So two interviews really stand out for me. The first was with Sophie Henderson and Curtis Val, who are the people behind the really lovely New Zealand film Workmates. This was a really great conversation talking about, what it takes to be a craftsperson in this country, what it takes to be filmmakers, and also drawing on the history of, Auckland, which is what the film kind of is about, as well as being a really lovely romantic comedy as well. Also, one of my more recent interviews talking to Rob Sarkis was a really detailed, in-depth discussion of the craft and talking with one of New Zealand's great filmmakers, someone who has a really proven track record and has turned to making this massive epic, one of the biggest kind of New Zealand films in a long time, with a huge cast and working with Melanie Linsky and Robin Malcolm. It was a really great conversation. Some of the other conversations I've had, which I've really enjoyed, Kate Roger right at the beginning of the year, our beloved local critic, Casey Wolfe, who directed the Haka Party Incident, another fantastic New Zealand film. Madeline de Young, the young programmer of and kind of head of Māoriland Film Festival. All of those were really great conversations. And we also got a chance to talk to some international talent as well. Talking to the Filippo brothers about Bring Her Back, which is that wonderfully gnarly Australian horror film from earlier this year. That was a real highlight as well. It's just been a fantastic year full of really great talent from this part of the world being able to kind of flex their creative muscles. It's been a really great time. Christmas and New Year and the summer kind of holidays are always a really big time for cinema of all kinds of shapes and sizes. That's because we have these big holiday blockbusters that are dropping around the kind of holiday season, but we also have Oscar season on approach. So those kinds of big weighty Oscar titles are also dropping at the same time. So December and January is actually going to be a really full-on month for really great titles to keep an eye out for. So I'm going to talk to you guys about my picks, and then I'm going to run through some other ones that are coming to keep an eye out for as well. So for my picks, at the start of December, Notes from a Fish is a New Zealand film. It's independently produced. It's directed by Tom Levesque and Romy Hooper. This is a film that was put together, on the smell of an oily rag. It looks like a really fun, really quirky comedy. Their last film, Shasai, was a very different kind of film to this one, but it looks really promising. It had a bow at Whanau Marama New Zealand International Film Festival. Now it's getting a bit of a wider release. In my opinion, films like this that are being put together just from passion alone and a few dollars that they've managed to shore up are ones that we should absolutely go out and support in cinemas. So really recommend checking that one out. Now, Nuremberg. Now, this one is not necessarily a super fun, feel-good film, but I managed to watch it earlier this month and really enjoyed it. This is a film about the Nuremberg trials. It's got a fantastic cast. Right at the top of the cast there is Russell Crowe and Rami Malek, and they're playing Hermann Goering, the Nazi kind of commandant, and his doctor while he was in prison, basically in Nuremberg, before the trials went underway, and the relationship that forms between them and the trial that kind of swirled around them. Very intense film, very kind of twisty-turny. It's a little bit kind of traditional in the way that it's been made, but it's very affecting at the same time. Very valuable kind of glimpse of period in history post World War II. Now, another film that's coming out is actually a new cut, sort of classic double bill. So Quentin Tarantino's Kill Bill movies, Volume 1 and Volume 2, they are being re-released as one 4-hour cut. Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair. Now, this is the way that I believe that Tarantino kind of intended for them to originally be seen. They have been kind of sewn together, and new footage has been included, including an almost 10-minute anime short that takes place somewhere within the cut. From what I've heard from overseas screenings, it brings a whole nother level to this beloved kind of series of films. If you're a fan of Tarantino, obviously this is not one to be missed. Now, James L. Brooks is a really, really wonderful filmmaker. He made Terms of Endearment, Broadcast News, those kinds of films. He's actually been out of action for over 10 years now in terms of directing his own work. He's made a new film called Ella McKay. Now, this one is kind of, it looks like the same kind of vibe as those films, those very kind of nice dramas that have a kind of, you know, domestic feel, but in a way that's really, really comforting. It's a really, really nice kind of item to be receiving around Christmas. It's got a fantastic cast, and it's worth seeing James L. Brooks' movie because we haven't seen one for such a long time. So I'm really, really looking forward to that one. Now, the next one we've got is one that's a lot of people have got their eyes on, obviously, Avatar: Fire and Ash. Now, this film, it's 3 hours and 15 minutes long. It is the third entry in the Avatar series. The Way of Water kind of surprised everyone with its financial success. Everyone knew it was going to be a bit of a juggernaut, but the level of success was huge. This will be a big test to see if that film kind of generated enough interest to keep this series going. James Cameron, the director, has suggested that the success of this film will determine how long the series is going to run. Now, I am kind of mixed on the Avatar films. I didn't enjoy the first one, but I actually quite enjoyed the second one. I do feel like it would be nice to see Jim Cameron try his hand at something else, since he spent so long on this project. But it's also one that he's really passionate about, and it's an original-ish concept that has brought in tremendous financial success. And so it's going to be interesting to see whether he can continue that going forward. So that one is going to be a big one to watch out for, both in terms of box office and in terms of whether or not it can be a contender for Oscars, as the last two films have been. Now, Father, Mother, Sister, Brother. This film won the top prize at Venice Film Festival. It comes to us from Jim Jarmusch, who is that really wonderfully cool, laconic, independent American filmmaker who is behind films like Patterson, one of my favorite films of the 2010s, and Dead Man and Down by Law, a whole bunch of classic films. This is his new film, and no one really expected it to win the Venice top prize, but then it did, because it's such a modest film. It's a kind of triptych structure about various different families. And that's kind of the simple kind of layout. And it's got a really, really great cast. Cate Blanchett is in there. And it looks quite promising, if modest. So it's really nice that those kinds of films are being recognised. And a new Jim Jarmusch film is cause for celebration for people who love independent American cinema anywhere. So I'm really, really excited to see that one. Now, Rental Family. This is quite an interesting one because the trailer was not promising, but I've heard from critics that I trust reasonably good notices for it. It's got Brendan Fraser in it, who obviously is in a bit of a resurgence post his Oscar for The Whale. And this comes to us from a director named Hick Hardy, just one. He's got a single name director, and it's a film about a kind of washed up actor who takes a job playing family roles for different families in Japan. And so it's quite an interesting looking little film. It's got an interesting concept. As I say, the trailer was not hugely inspiring, but I've heard little rumblings that it's better than that trailer lets on. So I will be watching. looking on to January, now there are a whole bunch more kind of Oscar films that are getting their new run after the film festival. So Sentimental Value, The Secret Agent, and It Was Just an Accident are all releasing kind of wide in January after their bows at the film festival. These three films are fantastic. Particularly, It Was Just an Accident. Jafar Panahi is that incredible Iranian director who was banned from filmmaking, placed on house arrest because of his criticism of the Iranian government, and managed to make this film in secret, and now it's kind of exploded, and he's a front runner for the Best Director Oscar later next year. So it's a really, really fantastic film. Highly recommend. If you didn't get a chance to see it at the film festival, checking it out. Same with Sentimental Value. This one is from Joaquin Trier, who made The Worst Person in the World. It's got a fantastic cast. It's a very powerful family drama. The Secret Agent is a Brazilian film, and it's from the guy who directed Bacurau, Kleber Mendonça Filho, and it's a really, really wonderful little kind of historical drama with Wagner Moura in the lead. Very, very cool little kind of strange little piece of history. Also bowing in January, we have the sequel to 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. Now, 28 Years Later was one of my favourite films of the year. The Bone Temple is not being directed by Danny Boyle, which is kind of cause for concern. It's being directed by Nia DaCosta, who also made a good film this year called Heather. Whether or not she'll be able to keep that kind of manic energy of 28 Years Later is yet to be seen. But that film was so good that I think it's worth checking out where that story's going to go next. And a lot of the cast, including Ralph Fiennes, is back as well. A couple of other big Oscar contenders are also bowing in January. We have Hamnet, which is Chloe Zhao's film. This one is a big Oscar frontrunner. It's about William Shakespeare and his wife kind of dealing with the death of their son. Is This Thing On is Bradley Cooper's new film. This one has got Will Arnett, and it's about a comedian going through a divorce. Marty Supreme is Josh Safdie's film. This one has Timothée Chalamet. That one is kind of the big front runner for Best Actor. I managed to see that the other day. Yeah, it's pretty great. And right at the end of January, Send Help is the new film from Sam Raimi. That's Sam Raimi, who made the Evil Dead trilogy, Spider-Man 1 and 2. One of the great American directors. Cannot wait to see what he's doing with an original title, with the great Rachel McAdams in the lead. There are so many other films dropping in these 2 months as well. Those are my picks for the ones to check out. But there's so many other great ones to keep an eye out for as well over these coming months. Now, I haven't put together my finalised list of the best films of the year, but I'm getting close. There's a few big titles kind of still in the wings waiting to be seen before I can really finalise that list. Avatar, Ella McKay, a bunch of others. But it's starting to take shape, and so I'm going to run through a few films that I think are some of the very best of the year that if you haven't seen yet, I highly recommend that you go and check out. I will start with It Was Just an Accident, Jafar Panahi's film. Now, this film opened Whanau Marama New Zealand Film Festival, comes back in January. It's an incredibly powerful film. Jafar Panahi is channeling a whole lot of rage and pain from years of persecution simply for making films. This is a filmmaker who made films even when he was banned from making films. He made films in his house with an iPhone. He could not stop. And he's a true filmmaker in every sense. And it's just wonderful to see a film of such scale and power being recognised in this way. So I highly recommend checking out It Was Just an Accident if you haven't already. Sinners, which came out earlier this year. Ryan Coogler's film. was a huge financial success, but it was also a critical success, and with good reason. It was a very, very well done, extremely entertaining piece of blockbuster cinema. Michael B. Jordan playing 2 roles in the lead was fantastic, but the entire cast was incredible. Miles Casson and Haley Steinfeld and Wunmi Masaku and all the rest of them were just very, very good. This was a film that had a whole lot of ideas running around underneath, but it was also just a really satisfying, almost John Carpenter-esque vampire flick as well. I really loved seeing Sinners. I didn't get a chance to see it in IMAX, which I'm still kicking myself about, because I hear that brings a whole nother level to it. Now, one battle after another. This is the big daddy of 2025 as far as I'm concerned. This one I saw in IMAX, and that was a very special experience. Paul Thomas Anderson's film really channels the modern moment, but also tells an incredibly timeless story about a father and a daughter. It's a chase movie. It's an action film. It's a really, really interesting kind of piece of social commentary. The cast is incredible. The filmmaking is of such a level that it puts so much else that I've seen in the cinema to shame. It is a strong contender for my favorite film of the year. 28 years later, Danny Boyle's horror, kind of apocalyptic horror. It continues that series that began with 28 Days and 28 Weeks later, and kind of elevates it. It becomes something else. It becomes about death on a grand scale. It's a very moving film. It's a very powerful one. It left a real mark on me, one that I really did not expect. It's a fantastic film. Danny Boyle's kind of erratic filmmaking style is on full display in a way that's really, really impressive. Now, Matthew Rankin's Universal Language. This is a film that channeled the work of Abbas Kiarostami, another fantastic Iranian filmmaker, to tell a story set in Canada, which is a very, very strange story, but one that I found incredibly moving. This one was a smaller film. It didn't make as much of an impact, but it's one that really stuck with me. By that same kind of notion, Put Your Soul on Your Hand and Walk, probably my favorite documentary of the year. This is Sepideh Farsi's film, talking to a young Palestinian journalist who was killed after this kind of long series of conversations that they had. The great tragedy of this film is that the film got announced for Cannes. They informed the journalist that that Sepideh was talking to, and then the next day she was killed. It's an incredibly powerful film, very, very heart-wrenching, enraging, but an incredibly powerful, essential piece of cinema. Blue Moon is one of 2 Richard Linklater films that we got this year, the other being Nouvelle Vague, which was a fun film, but Blue Moon was one that really, really stuck with me. Ethan Hawke gives maybe the performance of the year, as a playwright who kind of was fading into obscurity in the 1930s, kind of drinking his life away in a bar. Very, very powerful film. Now, if we're going to talk about the worst films of the year, there are a few really, real, true stinkers that I'm not going to spend too much time on them, but I think I'm just going to run through them really quickly. Here are some of my least favorite films of the year. Right at the bottom of the list, Captain America: Brave New World. Oh my God, what a piece of crap this was. A truly, truly bad film on almost every level. Truly represents the kind of nadir that Marvel has sunk to at this stage. The other Marvel films that were released this year were actually an improvement on this, but this was a rough one. Emilia Perez, the big Oscar contender from earlier this year, truly an absolute mess of a film in almost every regard. A very, very complex web of ways to offend people. And the filmmaking was just all over the place. I really hated that one. There are a few films I hated more than A Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey, Kogonada's film with Colin Farrell and Margot Robbie. This was I don't even know what they were trying to do with this one, but it was a kind of romance, kind of Kaufman-esque but without any of the edge or daring of that filmmaker's work. Those are probably my bottom 3 films of the year. I really hated all of them so deeply. But let's not linger on those, because this has actually been an incredibly strong year for film. And if we look back at 2024 compared to 2025, the level of filmmaking quality this year as opposed to last year has been a huge upward slope. Overall, I think this is one of the strongest years for films of this decade so far. Now, in my opinion, over the kind of Christmas, New Year period, most of the most interesting things to watch are going to be coming out in cinemas. But there are a few things coming out on streaming as well to keep an eye out for. Some which have had cinema runs and now are arriving on streaming. Others which are kind of big titles that are making their presence known. To start with, we have J. Kelly, which is another big Oscar contender. This one stars George Clooney. It's directed by Noah Baumbach, and it's a film that is kind of talking about this Hollywood actor reflecting on life. So it's an interesting looking film for Baumbach to tackle. It'll be interesting to see whether or not it actually goes there. It goes somewhere a little bit interesting, a little bit dangerous, or whether or not it's more of a cozy, comfy experience, which we've known George Clooney to do a couple of times. But George Clooney is getting a few kinds of Oscar notices for this. Whether or not he can actually see that through come Oscar season is another question. Now, one of my favourite films of the year, an incredible documentary called Predators, is also releasing in December. Now, this one is not a particularly festive film. It is a very dark film. It will make you feel very queasy, but it's a very, very powerful, essential film, in my opinion. This is a film about the series To Catch a Predator, which had a massive kind of following in the early 2000s, where they would lure potential predators online and then kind of catch them in the act. And it's a film that investigates the fallout of that show for the people who were involved, the people who they caught, and also the people who were inspired by that to create their own To Catch a Predator style YouTube series. If that already makes you feel a little bit icky, then you know what you're in for. It's a very, very kind of disturbing series. It's a very disturbing documentary, but one that I think is very, very important to see. And the level of filmmaking in this documentary is very, very assured as well. It is one of, if not my favorite documentary of the year. Now, in terms of streaming series that are releasing, there's 2 really big titles. The first is Fallout, which is getting its 2nd season. Now, this series was a surprise success. It was one that I was surprised by how much I actually enjoyed, having not played the game myself, not being much of a gaming fan. This one, the adaptation of that game, starring Walton Goggins, Ella Purnell, set in a kind of post-apocalyptic world with a little bit of kind of a irreverent kind of comedic shade to it as well. I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it, and I'm interested to see where they go in the 2nd season. I'm told that they're going to Las Vegas or New Vegas in this season, which, according to gaming fan friends of mine, is a big moment for the Fallout series. So we'll see how that goes. Now, the other one to keep an eye out for is Stranger Things, which comes to an end this month of December. The finale is playing on New Year's Eve. It's feature length. This is the most expensive, or one of the most expensive streaming series ever made. It is going to be huge. Most of the episodes are feature length. Whether or not they can wrap it up in style, I'm not sure. This show has been around for so long now, and entire great shows have kind of risen and fallen within the space between this season and the last. So it's going to be interesting to see if they wrap it up in style. in January, the streaming film that I'm really excited for is The Rip. This one comes to us from Joe Carnahan, who's a really, really accomplished action filmmaker. And it's a film with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, which is kind of strange to me that it didn't get a proper cinema release, but it's about a team of Miami cops discovering millions in cash inside of a stash house, and the kind of trust that kind of falls apart after that windfall. So it looks like a really down and dirty action film. Joe Carnahan is a very, very accomplished action filmmaker. He made a great film called The Grey, amongst others, and Narc, which is an amazing action film. If you've never seen Narc, highly recommend you check that out. So that one is a real January actioner, but one that I think has enough pedigree to kind of hopefully rise above that kind of stigma around that kind of month for action films. And also the presence of Affleck and Damon together on screen is one that I think we should never ignore. That's all we have time for here today at Point of View. Thank you so much for joining me throughout this year. It has been a weird, wild, wonderful year, and I've been so happy to share it with you guys. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Make sure you get out to the cinemas during this time. There's going to be a lot of great stuff showing on our big screens, and I will see you next year. We will have more kind of previews of what's coming up. We will be talking to some really, really great local and international talent. Looking forward to all sorts of great big films that are coming out. So happy holidays, and I will see you on the other side. Ka kite.